Prayer versus meditation. Now, the thing is about any form of prayer or meditation, or people say we're praying to, or we're visualizing, or we're putting ourselves into a state of being, a consciousness, they call it, or whatever. Buddhist philosophy was that you would basically meditate yourself into a big fat zero nothingness to be part of the wholesomeness. That's the highest state of Buddhism, right? Other people that worship their gods, I'm not going to name it at all these different, there's so many different types of them. Their God is a God is far away, a God that has a certain amount of accountability, but is not personal enough for them to be accountable. So therefore, in so many ways, everyone is a God unto themselves based upon how they've invented God in their head or how they apparently see him. Now, God dealt with all this by sending his son, Jesus Christ. And he basically said, I'm not going to give you the ability to pray, but I want to have a relationship with you. Where's father, child, right? So you come into a deeper state of responsibility, accountability, awareness that God is not only someone who's very far away, he's actually someone who's very close. And he's close to care about your well-being. And however your being is, he wants it to become better until it's well, until it's really well. We're not, because every human being, Jesus said this, I didn't come to call the righteous, I came to call the sick, which means the human race in general, because the Bible says the heart is desperately wicked and deceitful above all things. Now, there's definitely different levels by which people's hearts are wicked, but every human being is prone to some level of iniquity. Whether we can be pushed into it, it's the ability is there, right? So God, through his goodness and his relationship with him, we become less, the human heart becomes less empowered, and God be able to become more powerful in us by us having a relationship with them. So that's why when you see cultures that worship all these foreign and faraway gods and whatever, they're more prone to unrighteousness, to a lack of accountability, to cruelty, to mercilessness, to not even given any thought that God will deal with them harshly, because God is so far away. So somewhere deep down inside, right, when they do what they're doing, they're really just doing what is right in their own head. And they say, well, God, he's merciful. Oh, he'll and he has this and he judges that. But they're not really sure. Jesus Christ comes along and he says, no, you can be sure. He goes, if you believe in me, you will have the light of life, which means that you will have light. You will. You will have the shine. And the Bible says that the conscience of man is a search lamp of the living God. Well, mankind's conscience for a lot of ways have died. So when you come alive to God through his son, he turns on a switch and your conscience turns on. You become a living being with a conscience, right? So that's why God is now able to talk to you, you begin to experience him, and you will. You will. He's not a distant God. He's more close than you realize. When you pray at a certain point, you'll become very aware of his loving kindness, of his character, of his judgments. You'll become aware of accountability, and you'll become extremely aware that those prayers that are being answered, you will be so aware that hey, wait a second, this is an answer. He will make it obviously that this wasn't just some haphazard answer. This is direct. You got answered by God, who you're talking to, the true God, right? And what's cool about it is that he's your father. right? So you relate to him differently. You want to be a child that's well pleasing to him, right? You will know the fear of God too, a deep respect. See, would it be meditation, all these other things that people do? And I've seen this. I may be wrong. This from my own experiences of people that do a lot of these things. They're some of the most proud, arrogant. They seem to think they have it together, and they seem to think they have some kind of power, but they ain't powerful. And by the way, I think they are. You know, the one thing about meditation too is you got to be careful of when you're emptying yourself. Okay, there's forces, there's entities watching you, and are looking for a way to enter in. Okay, throughout history, people have proven this. Okay, the thing is about praying to God. You're talking directly to the throne of God. You're not emptying yourself for God. God Himself is emptying you that He can place His goodness inside of your life. And you will grow in character. You'll grow in the light. I'm not talking about people who are religious. See, they're not a group of people that they pray to quote unquote Jesus, or they pray to God, as they say. And you wonder why their characters are still just as nasty as ever, why they're so uncaring, why they should, instead of becoming better over the years, they become worse, is because they're following the same pathway as the meditation person, as the people who believe that God is so far that we can never know Him, so let's do our own thing. And God will judge it all in the end. It'll all come up in the wash, right? That's where meditation, Buddhism gets into the whole karmic thing, right? Now, well, but the true and living God doesn't work that way. Okay? He judges your works based upon your response towards Him. It's a totally different relationship. Conviction. See, you're convicted because of this person. Okay? It's a totally different scenario than basically living by inner convictions that are just haphazard. You know, one day it's okay, the next day it can be compromised. You know. So the thing is about whether it be whatever you're into, especially with getting on meditation. There was a time when the Western world were more towards Christianity, and I'm not talking about where they actually, and there was abuses there. I mean, they went off and they went astray and formed a lot of cults out of it and everything else. But these lands have been more blessed, okay? And there's a reason for that. Because God's presence always brings regeneration and refreshing wherever He is. It's like clean water in a parched desert. You cannot but keep the place and make the place come alive, right? The thing is with meditation and all these other things, you are entering into a very dangerous territory, and I mean it. When you take whatever stance you're taking, this goes back to Eastern ways. If you look at their lands and you look at their history, and you can't see the physical world reflecting their belief system, then you have to check out for a while out of life and start asking hard questions about what is so clearly obvious. These lands are under a curse, okay? They're under a curse. That's why the physical world is manifesting the curses in their life, because everyone is doing what's right in their own eyes. They don't believe in the true God, therefore He can't come into their environment. They suffer terrible maladies, the poverty, the level of demonic activity, the level of their land doesn't seem to bear any kind of real fruit. It goes into the governments. It goes into the way they treat each other with such mercilessness, with such narcissistic, sociopathic activity, running like madness, like a filthy stream. into their homes, into the generation, the way they abuse their children, the way they're taught that the right way to be is to be conniving, deceitful, evil, competitive, jealous, murderous. And if you carefully observe these lands, okay, when the Beatles went to India, this place, they brought back their curses with them. Okay, that's exactly what they did. You want to know why the '60s went the direction it did? The Beatles had a lot to do with it. They also brought Eastern philosophy. They brought Eastern demons into the environment. So don't be fooled by this, man. I'll tell you, I've looked into this in a very deep way. You look at all the lands that have more churches on it, that with a cross on top, or however you would like to see it, that as soon as they've instigated Jesus Christ into the environment, they were downloads came into the environment of industriousness, neighborly welfare systems. I mean, the list goes on. The ability, didn't even know where the abilities came from to be able to build, so rightly, make sure there was roads instead of filthy, muddy roads for them to walk on. It literally found its way like a ripple effect into their outer environments. Their children were taught well. Their schools, the curriculum had more propriety, social etiquette to it. Education was higher standards than third world countries. That's not coincidental. So, as you listen to me today, get away from curses, man, and get back to the faith of what made your country where it is today. And trust me, if you want to know, and you may think I'm probably reaching this, if you want to know what's causing a lot of these curses that's coming to Canada, the US, and Britain, and the Europe, and all these other places, is that people who should know better are forsaking the God who gave it to them and accepting their demons of people who are cursed. And you know what's happening? We're seeing more floods. We're seeing more natural disasters that these countries have known coming into the Western world. Coincidental? No way. Diseases, maladies, people with demonic mental illness and all these other things is hugely increasing. Can't bring curses into the environment and expect, God is just going to look away and just love me. No. He made one thing, and I end with this. God said, if you forsake me, I will forsake you. And that's the one thing you don't want in your life. So if you're meditating and you think you're all nice and easy and breezy, I would say to you right now, you heard it once, and I may trust God will send more people along. Quit whilst you're ahead. Nothing wrong with getting on your knees and seeing the future by faith, or saying, God, this is what I'd like to be, and having a clear picture of what you'd like to see happen. But when you think that you can actually get into a place, a spiritual place, and you're going to use your power or your mental power, now you're not using your power. The devil begins to give you exactly what you want. He did in the Garden of Eden, and he'll give it to you too, except it comes at a price. Because in the end, after the snake has handed you your nice little shiny toy, you'll notice a lot of other snakes start to rise up with it slowly. Because he comes with his stuff. Have a good day. Be kind to like and subscribe. I'd love to get my videos out there. YouTube ain't going to do anything for these videos unless you guys like and subscribe. Have a good day. Thank you.